In a stunning turn of events, Gal Gadot has broken her silence about Diddy, and the internet is in meltdown. Fans and critics alike are dissecting her unexpected words and what they reveal about the world behind the glitz and glamour. From cryptic hints to an explosive reveal, this story is packed with surprises. Let's unpack it all in today's video. The buzz started with a single cryptic tweet from Gal Gadot. In the middle of an otherwise calm Wednesday afternoon, she posted a short, enigmatic message that read, "Some truths can't stay buried forever." Accompanied by a black and white photo of her standing on a balcony, gazing at a stormy sky, it was enough to send social media into an immediate frenzy. Within minutes, influencers and gossip blogs were already circulating screenshots of her tweet. Speculation swirled like wildfire. What truth was she talking about? And why now? The mention of buried truths had a ring of finality, a sense that something long kept secret was finally ready to see the light of day. The usual celebrity news outlets jumped in almost immediately. Pop Culture Daily posted an article within an hour titled, "Gal Gadot's Cryptic Tweet Sparks Speculation of Diddy Feud or Secret Collaboration." In the article, they broke down every word of her message, even analyzing the grayscale photo for clues. Was it about a personal betrayal, a hidden affair, or a long-simmering professional rivalry? The blogosphere erupted with theories. Some believed it was about a new project she was involved in, maybe a surprise collaboration with Diddy on a film soundtrack or a secret music video cameo. Others were convinced it was a subtle dig, a sign of trouble brewing behind the scenes. A popular YouTube gossip channel, Celebrity Tea Time, uploaded a 20-minute video dissecting the tweet, using slow-motion voiceovers and dramatic music to hype up the mystery. Could this be the end of a high-profile friendship? The host wondered aloud. Or is it the start of a new Hollywood partnership that no one saw coming? Meanwhile, fans flooded Gal's Instagram and Twitter pages, desperate for more information. Comments poured in by the thousands. "Queen, spill the tea. Is this about Diddy? Tell us more. We're all waiting. Don't leave us hanging." It didn't help that Gal stayed silent. She didn't post any follow-ups or clarifications. The radio silence only added to the intrigue, as if she were daring the world to figure it out on their own. In the middle of all this, Diddy's name kept popping up. It wasn't entirely random. After all, he was no stranger to controversy, and whispers about his influence behind the scenes had circulated for years. Plus, Gal and Diddy had been seen at the same charity gala only weeks before. Photos of them sharing a polite, if slightly stiff, exchange had already made the rounds in celebrity circles. Diddy's own social media presence was oddly calm. His Instagram was filled with sleek, polished videos of his luxurious life, shots of him recording in the studio, motivational quotes about winning and staying focused. He didn't mention Gal's tweet, nor did he respond directly to the speculation. Instead, his team issued a carefully worded no comment to every media request that came their way. But as any publicist knows, no comment is rarely a calming force. To the gossip-hungry internet, it was as good as confirmation that something was going on. Comment sections were flooded with conspiracy theories. "He's scared. She's about to expose him. This is going to be bigger than that 2015 feud he had with Kendrick Lamar. Watch Diddy go full damage control in 3, 2, 1. As the hours turned into days, the speculation only grew. More influencers jumped on the trend, each offering their own spin on the brewing drama. A few claimed to have inside sources who hinted that there was a huge story just waiting to break, involving some of the biggest names in the industry. Late on Friday night, a small but reliable gossip site posted what seemed like a clue. They claimed to have spotted Gal and Diddy's teams having tense meetings at a private Beverly Hills club earlier in the week. They looked serious, the source said. Like they were talking about something major. The story was juicy enough to get picked up by big outlets. By Saturday morning, headlines were everywhere: Gal and Diddy, secret meetings or brewing feud. The more the story spread, the more fans became convinced that Gal's cryptic message was about more than just an artistic collaboration. This wasn't a new single or a surprise film project. This was something deeper. Something darker. The speculation reached a fever pitch on Sunday night when a well-known influencer named Bella K posted a video to her 3 million followers. "I've been told by a very reliable source that Gal has some dirt on Diddy," she said dramatically. "Something that could change everything. You guys aren't ready for this." It was exactly the kind of gasoline the story needed. The hashtag #GalVSDiddy started trending on Twitter. Fan theories turned into full-blown narratives. They drew connections to past interviews, old collaborations, and even throwback photos of them at the same events. The more people speculated, the more real the feud seemed to become. Gal, for her part, stayed entirely silent after that initial tweet. She didn't appear in public. She didn't post anything else on her social media. It was as if she'd dropped a bomb and walked away, leaving the world to pick up the pieces and guess at the fallout. Diddy's camp, meanwhile, maintained their silence but seemed to be working overtime to keep his name above the fray. His social media was suddenly filled with positive messages and serene photos of sunrises and luxury retreats, like he was trying to project calm in the eye of a brewing storm. As the week ended, everyone was left hanging on a thread. Gal's cryptic message and the swirling speculation had created a cloud of mystery that no one could quite see through. Fans felt like they were on the edge of a revelation, waiting for the next piece of the puzzle to fall into place. But for now, the rumor mill kept churning, fueled by whispers and half-truths, as the world waited for Gal, or Diddy, to finally speak up. And when that happened, everyone knew it would be a story for the ages. The buzz from Gal Gadot's cryptic tweet hadn't even begun to fade when, only a few days later, she reappeared in the public eye. This time, it wasn't another mysterious social media post. Instead, it was an appearance that no one saw coming, an unannounced sit-down interview on one of the biggest talk shows in the country. Word spread like wildfire the moment the talk show teased the segment. The host, a charming and respected journalist named Chloe Warner, promised viewers an unforgettable conversation with Gal Gadot, where no topic is off-limits. Fans and media outlets couldn't believe it. Gal had never been one to wade into public drama. What could she possibly be planning to say? When the cameras started rolling, Gal was calm and composed, sitting across from Chloe in a soft, powder blue dress that contrasted with the simmering energy of the room. She looked every bit the poised actress fans adored, except for the flicker of something else in her eyes. Determination, maybe, or defiance. Chloe started off light, asking Gal about her latest film project and the pressures of Hollywood. Gal answered politely, sharing stories from the set and smiling as she talked about the camaraderie of her co-stars. But it was clear that wasn't what had drawn everyone in. The tension in the room crackled every time Chloe paused, clearly weighing whether to dive into the real reason everyone was watching. Finally, she did. Gal, Chloe said, leaning forward just a bit, your recent social media post has had everyone talking. Some say it's cryptic, others think it's a warning. Can you shed any light on what you meant by "some truths can't stay buried forever"? The question hung in the air like a spark waiting to catch. Gal didn't flinch. She took a slow breath, her eyes momentarily glancing at the audience in the studio, then back at Chloe. I think, she began carefully, sometimes there are things in this industry that people would rather not talk about. Things that happen behind closed doors, where no one is watching. But the truth always has a way of coming out, doesn't it? The audience was silent, hanging on her every word. Chloe pressed on. Are you referring to anyone in particular? Gal paused. Her lips curved in a small, almost knowing smile. I think people can put the pieces together themselves. All I'll say is that there are powerful figures in this business who have built their reputations on certain illusions. And sometimes those illusions need to be broken. The crowd in the studio gasped softly. It wasn't a name, but it was enough. The internet exploded within seconds. Live tweets from viewers turned Gal's cryptic comments into trending hashtags before the segment had even finished airing. Chloe tried to steer the conversation back to safer ground, asking Gal about her upbringing and her passion for acting. But Gal's earlier words hung over the rest of the interview like a shadow. Even as she talked about her early days in Israel or the challenges of balancing motherhood with Hollywood life, everyone could see that she had just cracked the door open to something much bigger. As the show cut to a commercial break, the camera lingered on Gal's composed expression. She didn't look worried. In fact, she looked like a woman who had decided that enough was enough. The internet wasted no time turning her words into theories and headlines. Gal Gadot hints at powerful industry secrets. Who are the illusionists Gal is calling out? And of course, fans convinced Diddy is the target of Gal's veiled accusations. Meanwhile, Diddy's team was already in damage control mode. Within an hour of the broadcast, his publicist released a brief statement to entertainment reporters. Sean Combs has always conducted his business with the utmost integrity. Any suggestion to the contrary is completely unfounded. But the damage was already done. The statement only confirmed that they saw themselves in Gal's carefully chosen words. On social media, fans and followers were in overdrive. Some took Gal's side immediately, praising her for her courage and hinting that she was finally speaking up about things everyone else was too afraid to say. Others cautioned that it was dangerous to hint at accusations without evidence, warning that such a public confrontation could backfire. Amid the flurry of speculation, Gal herself remained silent. She didn't post anything else that night. No tweets, no stories, no updates. It was as if she had said what she needed to say, and now she was content to let the world figure out the rest. Back in the real world, Chloe Warner's team at the talk show knew they had just captured a moment that would live on in pop culture history. Behind the scenes, they debated how to follow up on the segment, but Chloe herself was already thinking bigger. She wanted an exclusive. She wanted to be the first to break the real story, whatever it turned out to be. The following morning, news outlets scrambled to secure their own interviews. Diddy's team, rattled by Gal's pointed comments, was bombarded with questions. His usual calm and confident image seemed suddenly fragile in the glare of this new controversy. Meanwhile, in living rooms and offices around the world, fans kept replaying the clip of Gal's interview, pausing every word, every pause, every subtle shift in her expression. The question on everyone's mind was the same. What was she really trying to say? And how long would it take for the real truth to come out? For Gal, the interview was a line in the sand. She'd said enough to hint at the power struggles and hidden dealings that went on behind the scenes, but she'd stopped short of naming names. Now, it was up to the world to decide if they would believe her hints, or if they'd demand she go further and bring the full truth into the light. As the cameras cut away and the world reacted, one thing was certain. The storm Gal had hinted at in that single, cryptic tweet was no longer just rumor. It was here, it was real, and it was only just beginning. The air was electric in the hours after Gal's interview aired. News outlets across the internet blared headlines about her veiled accusations, and social media was flooded with memes, theories, and hot takes. Everyone wanted to know what Diddy would do. Would he respond directly? Would he deny it outright or ignore it entirely? The world was waiting. For a while, there was silence from Diddy's camp. His official channels, Instagram, Twitter, even the carefully managed Facebook page, remained unchanged. Just the usual motivational posts about success and hustle. Pictures of him in sleek designer suits, leaning against luxury cars, flashing that charming grin he'd perfected over the decades. But nothing about Gal. Nothing about the brewing controversy. Then, late that evening, he broke his silence, sort of. Diddy posted a story on Instagram, a short video clip of him in the studio, leaning back in a plush leather chair. A glass of champagne in hand, he looked cool and unbothered as a beat thumped in the background. He didn't mention Gal's name, nor did he directly address the swirling drama. Instead, he looked into the camera and said, "The real ones know the truth. Stay focused. Keep building." He ended the clip with a slow, confident smile. It was exactly the kind of cryptic message fans had come to expect from Diddy. Just enough to acknowledge the chaos, but not enough to explain it. And for some of his followers, that was enough. They flooded his page with comments of support. "Keep your head up, King. Real ones move in silence. You don't need to explain yourself to anyone." But not everyone was buying it. Critics and gossip bloggers dissected the video like a crime scene. The glass of champagne, the casual calm, was it a show of strength or a sign he was rattled? Some fans said he was mocking Gal's claims, calling her out without naming her. Others thought he was just trying to act like he wasn't bothered when, in reality, he was plotting his next move. Meanwhile, his inner circle tried to spin the narrative. Close associates of Diddy began giving off-the-record comments to journalists. "He's not worried," one insider insisted. "He thinks this is all just noise." Gal's comments didn't even mention him by name. But there was a crack in the calm. Another source hinted that Diddy was furious behind the scenes, calling meetings with his legal team and top advisors. Gossip blogs had a field day. One headline read, "Diddy laughs off Gal's claims, or is he just hiding the truth?" Another took a more dramatic tone. "Behind Diddy's calm exterior, friends say he's ready to strike back." As the speculation grew, so did the divide in public opinion. On Twitter, people chose sides like it was a modern-day duel. Gal's speaking truth to power. Diddy's empire is crumbling. Please, this is just another Hollywood stunt for attention. Why's Diddy acting so chill if there's nothing to hide? Some fans dug deeper, pulling up old interviews where Diddy spoke about loyalty, trust, and the importance of keeping your circle tight. Others unearthed grainy footage from parties and backstage events, convinced they could find some hidden sign that Diddy and Gal had been at odds for a long time. It wasn't just the fans who were talking. A few of Diddy's former collaborators and industry peers started weighing in, though always carefully. A well-known producer hinted during a podcast interview that a lot of things get brushed under the rug in this business until they don't. Another artist who had once worked with Diddy tweeted cryptically, "Funny how some people think they are untouchable. But karma's got a long memory." Despite the whirlwind, Diddy refused to give a formal statement. His team stuck to a simple, firm line: no comment. It was as if they believed that by refusing to engage, they could keep the controversy from gaining real traction. But the internet doesn't work that way. The silence became its own kind of statement. Every time Diddy posted another slick photo or an inspiring quote, the comments were filled with people demanding answers. "Where's the truth, Diddy? Gal called you out. We're waiting." Silence speaks volumes. And Gal? She was nowhere to be seen. Since her interview, she'd gone completely quiet, leaving the world to swirl around her words. If she was watching the drama unfold, she wasn't giving any sign of it. Some fans said she was playing it smart, letting the story speak for itself. Others worried for her, sure that Diddy's team was working behind the scenes to shut her down. In the middle of it all, new whispers began to emerge. Anonymous tips to celebrity gossip pages claimed that Diddy was making calls, talking to lawyers, media consultants, and even a few trusted reporters. Some said he was getting ready to tell his side of the story, to put the rumors to rest once and for all. Others believed he was simply waiting for the heat to die down before moving on like nothing had happened. The truth was, no one really knew. But the combination of Gal's cryptic hints and Diddy's calculated calm created a perfect storm of speculation. The more he posted about staying focused and moving in silence, the more people wondered what exactly he was trying to hide. By the end of the week, the feud, real or imagined, had become the hottest topic in celebrity news. Talk show hosts debated it, podcasts dedicated whole episodes to it, and fans around the world couldn't get enough. Diddy's reaction, or lack of it, had become a story in itself. One thing was certain: whatever was happening behind the scenes, it was more than just a single cryptic tweet or tense interview. There was a story here, and the world was hungry for the truth. Days turned into a week, and the internet was still buzzing. Fans, influencers, and gossip sites kept dissecting every cryptic hint and every social media post, but no one was prepared for what came next. Late on a Friday night, just as the world was settling in for the weekend, Gal Gadot broke her silence again. This time, she wasn't relying on an interview or a carefully worded tweet. She took matters into her own hands. At exactly 9 p.m., Gal posted a long-form video to her official YouTube channel. The title was simple: My Truth. The thumbnail was even simpler: just her, in a softly lit room, looking directly into the camera. No makeup, no glamorous lighting. Just Gal, raw and unguarded. Within minutes, the video had thousands of views. Notifications lit up across phones, laptops, and tablets as fans scrambled to watch. The first words she spoke were quiet but carried a weight that was impossible to ignore. "I know the world has been talking," she began, her voice calm and steady. "I've been silent for a long time, but there comes a moment when you can't stay silent anymore." She didn't name Diddy outright, not once. But she didn't have to. As she spoke, the shape of the story became unmistakably clear. She talked about an empire built on charm and manipulation, about behind-the-scenes deals that always come at a cost. She talked about the pressure to stay quiet, to play along for the sake of fame and fortune. And she talked about the choice to finally break that silence. "There are things that happen in this industry," she said softly, "that people would be shocked to know. Deals made in secret, promises that were never meant to be kept. And the ones who try to speak up? They are told to sit down, to stay pretty and play their part. But I'm done playing that part." As she spoke, her face never wavered. She was calm, almost too calm, as if she'd rehearsed these words 1,000 times in her head before finally letting them out. It wasn't an attack, it was a confession. A laying bare of everything she kept bottled up for too long. She didn't give specific dates or name names. But her words were laced with implications. The empire, the deals, the charm. It didn't take much for viewers to connect the dots to Diddy. And that was all it took for the internet to explode. Within an hour of posting the video, hashtags like #GalSpeaks and #EmpireSecrets were trending worldwide. Fans flooded the comments, praising her bravery and speculating on the hidden meanings behind every line. "She's talking about Diddy." "No question," one comment read, already with hundreds of likes. "This is bigger than music, it's the whole entertainment world," another added. "She's saying what so many have been too scared to say,"
someone else wrote. But not everyone was convinced.
Some called it a calculated move, a publicity stunt to boost her own profile. Others warned that hinting at serious accusations without naming names was dangerous and unfair. If she's going to talk about shady deals, she needs to back it up, one skeptical comment read. Meanwhile, Diddy's team scrambled. His publicist issued a brisk statement. Sean Combs has always conducted himself with integrity and transparency. Any implication to the contrary is baseless. But for every statement they made, there were 10 more tweets demanding the truth. Behind the scenes, insiders claimed Diddy was furious. Rumors swirled that he was calling up allies in the industry, trying to rally support and figure out how to shut the story down. One gossip columnist said they'd heard Diddy was even considering legal action, though no official moves had been made. But Gal didn't seem worried. In her video, she ended with a simple message: I know this is only the beginning. I know there will be attempts to silence me, to spin this story. But I'm not afraid. I've said what I needed to say. And the rest? That's up to the world to decide. The final seconds of the video showed her sitting still, breathing steadily. She didn't flinch. She didn't smile. She just stared into the camera, as if daring the world to challenge her. For fans, it was the moment they'd been waiting for. The line between rumor and truth had been crossed. No more cryptic hints or cryptic tweets. She'd laid it out, even if she hadn't said his name. And now, the ball was in Diddy's court. The media frenzy that followed was immediate and unstoppable. Every entertainment news outlet ran the story. Gal Gadot drops bombshell video. Is she calling out Diddy's empire? Hollywood secrets exposed. The headlines were everywhere, accompanied by screenshots and video clips of Gal's steady, unwavering gaze. Podcasts and talk shows devoted entire episodes to unpacking the video. Former collaborators of Diddy started dropping their own cryptic hints. One music producer posted a single emoji, a zipper over the mouth, on Instagram, and it was enough to set off another round of speculation. Was this a sign that more people were ready to speak out? Meanwhile, Diddy's social media was a curious mix of motivational quotes and glossy photos. But in the comment sections, there was only one topic on everyone's minds. Are you going to respond to Gal?
Truth always comes out.
You can't hide forever. Enough with the quotes. Where's the real talk? As the days went on, the divide grew sharper. Some believed Gal had said enough. Her words were a rallying cry for transparency in an industry built on illusions. Others demanded proof, receipts, anything to back up her story. But one thing was clear. Gal had turned the rumor mill into a full-blown reckoning. And for the first time, it felt like the shiny, polished surface of the entertainment world was cracking just a little. The carefully guarded secrets, the whispered deals, it was all out in the open now. And no one knew what would happen next. The morning after Gal Gadot's video dropped, it felt like the whole world had shifted. News anchors in press suits were leading with her video as the top story. Pundits who usually reserved their debates for politics or sports were suddenly dissecting every word Gal had spoken. The empire became the phrase of the day, a catchy hook that perfectly captured the whispers of power and control she'd alluded to. By midday, every major entertainment outlet had turned their homepage into a shrine for the story. Entertainment Weekly had an entire slideshow titled Gal vs. Diddy, a timeline of the feud that has Hollywood buzzing. Rolling Stone published an op-ed praising Gal's courage, calling her the voice of truth in an industry built on silence. Even the normally gossip-averse New York Times ran a piece exploring the cultural impact of her decision to speak up. Gossip blogs took it to the next level, of course. Screenshots of Diddy's most cryptic Instagram posts were being reinterpreted in real time, with headlines like Diddy's subtle clapback? Here's what we think. Every paparazzi shot of Gal, leaving a yoga class, getting coffee, even just smiling at fans, was suddenly a potential clue in the drama. And then there were the former associates of Diddy. In the past, these people had been background noise, session musicians, backup dancers, assistants who'd moved on. Now, they were stars in their own right. A DJ who'd once opened for Diddy posted a TikTok saying, "I saw some of this firsthand. Gal isn't lying." He didn't elaborate, didn't have to. That one line was enough to add another log to the fire. A choreographer who'd worked with Diddy on a world tour posted a cryptic Instagram story, a single emoji of an eye, watching. The comments on her story exploded, with fans begging for her to spill the details. It wasn't just whispers anymore. The internet had turned into a full-blown court of public opinion. There were those who rallied behind Gal, calling her a hero and a truth-teller. They flooded her video's comments with messages of support. You're so brave for saying what everyone else was too scared to. This is the start of a revolution. Thank you, gal. Expose them all. Others took a more cautious tone, arguing that hinting at dark truths without naming names was reckless. It's dangerous to imply without evidence, wrote one Twitter user. What if this is all just smoke and mirrors? But even those who questioned her were watching, unable to turn away from the spectacle. Meanwhile, Diddy's brand took a visible hit. Sponsorship deals he'd once championed quietly began to distance themselves. A major sportswear company, long associated with his name, issued a carefully worded statement saying they take all allegations seriously and were reviewing their partnership. For a man who'd built his empire on image and connections, the cracks were starting to show.
Diddy himself kept up the calm facade.
He posted a video on Instagram of himself on a luxury yacht, the sun setting behind him as he toasted to the good life. His caption was simple, "Stay winning." But in the comments, no one was buying it.
Not this again.
Where's the truth? Gals living in your head rent-free. You can't yacht your way out of this one, Diddy. In the quieter corners of Hollywood, insiders were talking, too. A former agent, speaking anonymously to Vanity Fair, said, "There's always been chatter about how Diddy operates behind closed doors. Gal's video is making people rethink those stories." Another source told Variety that other celebrities were watching closely, wondering if Gal's words would give them the courage to speak up, too.
The effect of her reveal rippled out far beyond just the music world.
Podcasters jumped on the topic with hour-long breakdowns of every potential connection. TikTok creators made side-by-side comparison videos of Gal's words and Diddy's cryptic posts. Even late-night hosts who usually steered clear of celebrity gossip found a way to make it part of their monologues, joking about the empire and how Diddy might be lawyering up behind the scenes. And all the while, Gal stayed silent. No tweets, no stories, no interviews. Her video was her statement, and she let it stand alone, no embellishments, no follow-ups. Fans saw it as a sign of strength, the ultimate MIC drop in a world obsessed with constant updates. But the silence wasn't stopping the conversation. In fact, it was making it even louder. When you don't fill in the blanks, people will fill them in for you. Rumors that had been whispers in the dark for years were now being repeated as gospel truth. For some, it felt like the start of something bigger than one feud.
It was about power and who got to wield it.
It was about the silenced voices of an industry that thrived on illusion. Gal had pulled back the curtain just enough to show the machinery behind the scenes, and now everyone wanted to see how deep the rabbit hole went. But amid the noise, there were still those who saw danger in the feeding frenzy. A well-respected journalist posted on Twitter, "We have to be careful. Accusations and half-truths can ruin lives. Let's demand facts, not just fuel for the fire."
Yet even he couldn't deny the power of the story.
His tweet had thousands of retweets, a testament to just how deeply the world was invested. As the days turned into weeks, one thing was clear. The truth, whatever it really was, had become bigger than either Gal or Diddy. It had become a cultural moment, a reckoning. And no matter what came next, the story was far from over. The dust from Gal's video and the swirling media frenzy hadn't even begun to settle when the first real consequences of the drama started to unfold. It was no longer just about cryptic statements and subtle digs. The ripples were now turning into full-blown waves, and the first cracks in the polished facade of Hollywood were beginning to show. For Diddy, the impact was immediate and unmistakable. His team shifted from cryptic Instagram posts to full-blown crisis management mode. PR experts were flown in, men and women with decades of experience in damage control. Behind closed doors, there were long, tense meetings in luxury hotel suites, where strategies were mapped out like battle plans. One of Diddy's most trusted advisors was seen leaving his mansion looking visibly rattled, refusing to comment when pressed by paparazzi. A source close to Diddy confided to a gossip columnist, "He's feeling the heat. He knows that the longer this goes on, the more damage it does to everything he's built." It wasn't just about personal reputation anymore.
Business partners started to get cold feet.
Brands that had once clamored to be associated with Diddy's image of luxury and power suddenly went quiet. A major energy drink company was rumored to be reconsidering a deal worth millions. An exclusive nightclub that had once hosted Diddy's legendary parties quietly scrubbed his name from their VIP booking lists. Meanwhile, Diddy's legal team was working overtime. There were whispered conversations about cease-and-desist letters and potential lawsuits. Friends close to him said he was considering an exclusive interview with a friendly media outlet to set the record straight, though so far, nothing materialized. The silence from his side had become as much a story as Gal's video itself.
And Gal? She stayed in the shadows, refusing to elaborate on her video.
Her team put out a brief statement thanking fans for their support, but otherwise, she stayed out of the spotlight. She didn't need to say more. Her message had already sparked something that couldn't be put back in the bottle. But while Gal kept quiet, the world around her didn't. Fans and critics continued to debate every aspect of her words and what they meant. On one hand, there were those who praised her for refusing to be cowed by the pressure.
She said her piece and walked away.
That's power, one fan tweeted. On the other hand, there were those who argued that her silence now was irresponsible. If you're going to make serious allegations, you need to see them through, wrote another.
In the business world, the ripple effect of the controversy was clear.
Brand deals tied to both Gal and Diddy were suddenly in limbo. A cosmetics brand that had just signed Gal to a multi-year endorsement deal was reportedly nervous about the fallout, though they stayed publicly supportive. "We stand by Gal," they said in a brief statement. But behind the scenes, insiders said the brand's marketing team was in crisis mode, rewriting ad campaigns and preparing for any eventual backlash. At the same time, Hollywood insiders said the controversy had become the talk of every boardroom and cocktail party. One veteran producer was overheard saying, "If this can happen to Diddy, it can happen to anyone. Everyone's checking their closets for skeletons right now." It wasn't just about Diddy's empire anymore, it was about the entire culture of secrecy that had defined the industry for decades. Meanwhile, smaller voices who had always been on the fringes of the entertainment world were finding new courage. A backup singer who had once worked on a Diddy project posted a cryptic tweet, "Funny how the truth always finds a way out, even if it takes years."
She didn't elaborate, but she didn't have to. The world was listening. For Diddy's fans, the fallout was complicated.
Some doubled down, convinced that this was just another overblown scandal in an industry that thrived on gossip. Others, once diehard loyalists, found themselves questioning everything. "I've loved his music since the 90s, but if what Gal is saying is even half true," one Reddit thread began, trailing off into pages of speculation and heartbreak. Behind the scenes, Diddy's team tried to project an air of control. There were photos of him at exclusive events, smiling and posing with other celebrities, as if nothing had changed.
But the comments on those photos told another story.
"Why are you out partying when there's real stuff to answer for?
Gal's not going away.
Neither is this. Your empire's cracking, Diddy."
And still, the questions lingered.
If Diddy had nothing to hide, why wasn't he addressing the allegations head-on? Why the carefully curated posts, the motivational quotes, the yacht videos? The silence was deafening, and the longer it stretched on, the more damning it seemed. Gal's silence, in contrast, was being seen as strength. She had spoken her truth and stepped back, refusing to be drawn into the spectacle that everyone else was trying to create. It was a power play that left her fans in awe and her critics scrambling to find a new angle. By the end of the month, the fallout was still far from over. Diddy's brand, once bulletproof, had taken a visible hit. His empire, built on decades of hustle and reinvention, was suddenly showing cracks. Gal, meanwhile, had become a symbol of defiance, a reminder that even the biggest names in Hollywood couldn't control every narrative. As the sun set on another day of speculation, one thing was certain: the battle lines were drawn. The fallout was only just beginning, and no one knew where it would end. As the fallout continued to unfold in the public eye, what was happening behind the scenes was even more dramatic than the headlines suggested. Gal's bombshell video had not only rattled Diddy's public image, it had ignited a frenzy of activity among insiders and power players who usually preferred to stay in the shadows. Whispers of a bigger plan had already begun to swirl. A source close to Gal claimed she had been preparing to expose these truths for months, maybe even years. This wasn't just an offhand decision, the source said in an interview with a popular podcast. She's been gathering information, talking to people who've seen things firsthand. She knew exactly what she was doing. Other sources said there were files, documents, emails, contracts that backed up Gal's cryptic hints. Rumors of secret recordings circulated, too, though no one seemed to have actually heard them yet. One gossip site claimed that Gal's team had compiled a dossier that painted a damning picture of Diddy's empire.
True or not, the idea alone was enough to keep the world on edge.
Meanwhile, Diddy's camp was fighting back with everything they had. His legal team went into overdrive, reportedly sending out cease-and-desist letters to smaller blogs and influencers who had begun repeating Gal's claims as fact. A few of those letters leaked online, showing the kind of pressure tactics that had kept stories like this buried for so long.
But even legal threats couldn't stop the whispers. A music producer who had once worked closely with Diddy was said to be seriously considering going public with his own stories. Another former collaborator dropped a cryptic post on social media. "It's about time the truth came out." They didn't name names, but the implication was clear. For Gal, the growing chorus of voices was a validation of everything she'd risked by speaking out. Friends said she was keeping a low profile, staying away from the noise but still in close contact with those who had become her allies in this quiet war. She knew that every word she had spoken in her video was being scrutinized, twisted, and turned into something new by people who didn't want the truth to get out.
But she didn't back down.
Meanwhile, Diddy's inner circle was feeling the strain. His team had always been known for their loyalty, but insiders said that even some of his most trusted allies were starting to question how much longer they could keep the facade going. "There's only so much you can spin," one associate admitted off the record. "At some point, you have to wonder what you're really protecting." The fear of exposure was palpable. It wasn't just about protecting Diddy's brand, it was about the entire ecosystem that had grown up around him. Powerful people who had profited from his success were now watching closely, worried that they might get pulled down with him if the story kept growing. In the midst of it all, the world was riveted by the spectacle. Fans dissected every new rumor, every cryptic post. Influencers took sides, some calling for a full reckoning in the industry, others warning that witch hunts could destroy innocent lives. But no matter which side people took, the one thing no one could deny was that the story had become bigger than either Diddy or Gal. In private conversations, some of Hollywood's biggest names were said to be quietly supportive of Gal. "She's saying what a lot of us have wanted to say for years," one A-list actor told a reporter, though he refused to go on the record. Another source hinted that a few major celebrities were considering speaking out themselves, emboldened by Gal's bravery. But the stakes were high. Careers were on the line. Fortunes, too. Every word had to be weighed carefully, every move considered from every angle. For some, it was easier to stay silent and hope the storm would pass. For others, the thought of finally telling the truth was too tempting to ignore. As the weeks went by, the pieces of the puzzle began to shift into place. Journalists who had once been afraid to dig deeper were suddenly emboldened, following leads that had been whispered about for years. One investigative reporter teased an upcoming exposé on the hidden power structures of the music industry, promising revelations that would make even Gal's video seem like just the tip of the iceberg. Back in the world of social media, fans kept pushing for answers. Every time Diddy posted another inspirational quote or flashy photo, the comments were a battlefield. "Enough with the show. Tell us what really happened." "Gal's not alone. You can't bury the truth forever. This isn't about music anymore. It's about power." Through it all, Gal stayed quiet, a figure of calm amid the noise. Her silence wasn't weakness, it was strategy. She had said enough to start the conversation, and now she was letting the world do the talking. And in that silence, she was more powerful than ever. But even as she waited, she knew that the battle was far from over. Diddy wasn't going to back down quietly, and his allies had too much to lose. The legal threats, the spin, the attempts to discredit her, all of it was only just beginning. But Gal had sparked something that couldn't be snuffed out so easily. The story was no longer just about a cryptic video or a cryptic feud. It was about an entire industry's unspoken rules and the people brave enough to challenge them. And as the world watched with bated breath, one thing was certain: the fight for the truth was far from over. As the weeks turned into months, the story that had started with a single cryptic tweet by Gal Gadot refused to fade away. The buzz in the media and the chatter among fans ebbed and flowed, but one truth had become clear. The facade of perfection around Diddy's empire had been cracked, and there was no way to patch it up completely. Yet amid all the noise, Gal herself had remained largely silent. She let the speculation swirl and the opinions clash, staying out of the spotlight except for carefully chosen appearances that had nothing to do with the controversy. To some, it looked like she had moved on. To others, it was a power play, letting the world see that she had said her piece and had no intention of getting dragged into the endless back and forth. And then, one morning, she returned. Without warning, Gal posted a final message on her Instagram, a simple, no-nonsense text post on a white background that read, "I've said everything I needed to say. The truth is out there. I'm done talking." The post was direct and final, and within minutes, it went viral. It wasn't a video or a carefully produced statement, it was just a few words, but they said everything. Fans flooded the comments with messages of support and admiration, calling her brave, calling her a trailblazer.
Even those who had once been skeptical had to admit, she had owned the story from start to finish. But even as Gal closed the door on the conversation, Diddy's camp wasn't done. Within hours of her post, one of his lawyers issued a statement to the press. Mr. Combs continues to deny any wrongdoing and is exploring all legal options to protect his reputation and livelihood. It was a clear hint at the possibility of legal action, threatening to turn the simmering feud into an all-out courtroom drama. Yet for many, the damage was already done. The court of public opinion had spoken, and it was clear that Diddy's empire would never be quite the same. Even if no lawsuits ever came to fruition, the questions had been asked, the shadows illuminated. And people weren't going to stop looking for answers. As the days passed, the story began to settle into the cultural landscape, not as a daily headline anymore, but as a touchstone, a moment when the music industry's glamorous image had been cracked open. Documentaries and podcasts began to appear, each trying to piece together the puzzle Gal had started. Some were sympathetic to her, others cautious, but none could deny the power of what she'd set in motion. For the industry, the message was clear. The days of total secrecy and silent complicity were numbered. Whispers that had once been brushed aside were now front and center. Even those who had nothing to do with Diddy or Gal felt the shift, a sense that the rules had changed, and the old ways of doing business were under the microscope. For Gal, it was a strange mix of relief and uncertainty. Friends said she felt lighter, as if a weight had been lifted. She knew the risks of speaking out. She'd seen the backlash, the smears, the attempts to silence her. But she also knew she couldn't have stayed silent any longer. And now, she was at peace with the choice she had made. Diddy, on the other hand, seemed to be moving on in his own way. He went back to posting carefully curated glimpses of his life, the parties, the recording sessions, the motivational messages. But in the comments, the questions never really stopped. Every photo had someone asking, "What about Gal?" or "Where's the truth, Diddy?" He could pretend all he wanted, but the world had seen behind the curtain, and they weren't going to forget it. And so, the video ends. A quiet moment of reflection, of understanding that the price of truth is never small, but it's always worth it. Over a final montage of social media posts, news headlines, and soft instrumental music, the narrator's voice returns one last time. In the end, the truth doesn't belong to any one person. It belongs to all of us, waiting to be seen. And though the fight may be over for now, the questions it raised will echo long after the headlines fade. Because once the truth is spoken, it can't be unspoken. And that is the final word. The screen fades to black, leaving viewers with a final thought, a final breath of the story that had captivated the world. The battle lines had been drawn and the truth had been laid bare. And though the world would move on to new stories, new scandals, and new dramas, what Gal had started would remain, a testament to the power of one voice, one choice, and one simple message. The truth matters.